The voyeur. Jim couldn't believe he let Eric talk him into going to the BDSM club. It was totally out of Jim's element, but the thought of spending yet another Saturday night alone in a strange city was too excruciating to bear. In truth, he had thought things would be a lot different when he moved away to live with his friend. Coming from a small town, Jim had felt oppressed, a closeted gay boy with an interest in art and everything that country life couldn't provide and didn't accept. He had thought that moving to a big city would give him a chance to spread his wings and taste all the wonders of life he had always dreamed of. Since Jim had arrived in New York, though, he spent more time in their small apartment than anywhere else, too afraid of the world to step outside without Eric by his side. Life didn't stop for Eric, though, not even a heartbeat. He was a socialite, thriving on adventure and chance encounters. Now that they lived together, Jim thought it a wonder that he had even met Eric in the first place. The guy was always gone on the weekends and his days off, usually out doing something seedy that brought a blush to Jim's tanned face from the thought. Eric was only home on nights that he had school the next morning. That was his downtime, his internet time, the time that he had met Jim. "Come with me, you'll love it," Eric had begged Jim the previous weekend before he took off for the BDSM club. Just seeing Eric in his leathers made Jim feel uneasy. He knew nothing of the lifestyle, had no prior interest in it, but Eric was so immersed that it did raise a spark of curiosity. That night, Eric didn't come home, and when he returned the following day, his neck and torso were covered in deep purple bruises. Eric confessed that he had run into a mistress who had really torn him up. The look in his eyes when he told the story spoke volumes about how much he had enjoyed the experience. "I hate pain," Jim said nervously, eyeing a ring of teeth-shaped bruises that dotted Eric's naked collarbone. "Sometimes it's not about the pain," Eric told him. "Sometimes it's about giving complete control of yourself, of your body, to someone else. That's where my pleasure comes from. The pain is an added bonus. Haven't you ever just wanted to let go?" He paused, looking into Jim's timid blue eyes. "Of course not. You're too guarded." Jim wasn't sure whether to be offended or not. He wasn't guarded. He was just inexperienced, far from the sexual deviant that Eric was. Having lived his life in the secret shadow of his sexuality, deflecting advances from females who had found him attractive, and too scared to pursue his own wild fantasies, Jim was a virgin in almost every sense of the word. He'd only ever been kissed once, and that was when he was 5 years old on the playground in kindergarten. Even then he knew where his attractions lie, and it wasn't with the opposite sex. Nervousness welled up in the pit of Jim's stomach as they approached the ominous door to the BDSM club. The building was unidentifiable as a club from the outside, taking on the guise of an old fire station, and the sparseness of vehicles in the parking lot suggested that it was a very exclusive establishment. Eric knocked on the door, a series of loud, rhythmic taps, some kind of secret code for those inside. A man stepped out, eyeing the two of them up and down. He smiled warmly at Eric in recognition, but when his eyes landed on Jim, his face dipped into a scowl. "He's with me," Eric told the man, casting a look in Jim's direction. "Come on in," the doorman said as he opened up the door for their entry. Even as they walked inside, Jim could feel the man's eyes upon him, silently telling him that he didn't belong. He was now wishing that he had taken Eric up on wearing some of his leathers, despite how stupid he thought it would have looked in them. In a pair of plain jeans and a gray and black striped sweatshirt, Jim stuck out like a sore thumb among the leather and PVC-clad inhabitants of the BDSM club. Once inside, Eric handed his trench coat to the doorman, exposing naked flesh to the warm air. He wore a leather bondage harness with big metal O-rings connecting the straps in the front and back. His bottoms were equally skimpy, a leather thong with a removable basket for his crotch, leaving little to the imagination. Eric was proud of his smooth, hairless body, and it showed. If Jim's eyes hadn't been preoccupied by other things, he might have had a hard time taking them off his friend.